Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Grid Vision's coverage of the Global Racing Truck Series here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We've been seeing some exciting racing all week long here at Vegas, and I have no doubts that today is going to be pretty much just the same. My name is Brian Britt. I have Austin Estrom as my co-commentator. Of course, Arson Dimersteiner down behind the camera. Definitely excited to see what this mile and a half is going to treat us to here tonight. Of course, I'm looking back. I remember Friday was one of the best races I've ever called in my adult life, I gotta say. And I don't know, can this top it, Austin?
Probably not. I hate to say it, but don't get me wrong, it's going to be a good show. I wholeheartedly believe that, but my goodness, Friday night with the Cup cars at Las Vegas, I mean, those cars just work around this racetrack so well. I would tell you I'd be really frustrated driving one of them in the modified back racing we saw, but watching from the booth was absolutely insane. And I do think we're going to see some similar racing here today in the trucks. I do think the trucks and the Cup cars are relatively similar in a lot of ways. The trucks just have a little bit less horsepower, maybe a little bit more grip through the center of the corners. Just depends on the track, in all seriousness. I couldn't really give you too much in-depth detail on the trucks here at Las Vegas, but we're looking at the track map right now. 64 degrees, so it's pretty cold track temp in all seriousness, only being in the 60s.
It's definitely going to provide a lot of grip on the racetrack for sure, and curious to see how that plays out. Of course, I have actually done a couple truck races this week, so I guess usually you're the expert, Austin, but this week I'm kind of the expert here in the truck. I've done a couple races. For the first 20 laps, it is like a super speedway. You're going to be flat out, foot to the floor, pushing the guy ahead of you, double file racing. But of course, after that, that's when the tires start to wear out. You're going to have to be a little bit more gentle on it. Of course, we got the points up on our screen right now. Chad McGinley, he's up at the top of the board. The big mover, though, after last week's race at Iowa was Justin LeBlanc. He, of course, jumps up 6 positions. Unfortunately, we weren't able to actually call last week's race, but definitely was a great run for him. He's up to that second spot. Third place, E.J. Luna, really good runs for him. Ricky Hudgens, he's up in 4th. Bobby Mantle, 5th. Steve Gerber's in 6th. Mark Royce is in 7th. Stephen Hayes is in 8th. 9th place, Stephen Knight. Of course, Daniel Ott is in 10th. Now, kind of keep in mind as well, I do believe we will have some eliminations I think after this race, there will be 2 more races, and then we will be, I do believe, eliminating a lot of drivers for this championship. So, a lot of guys really going to be heavily valuing the points right now here tonight, and with how exciting and I think action-packed this race is going to be, we could possibly see some guys, stumble, or we could see some guys get that victory, that trophy that kind of gives them the leeway they need to make it to the championship.
Yeah, and that's the everything super important rides down on the championship. The last couple of races in this round to make sure that you can kind of fight your way into that last race for the championship. That's what all these guys are looking for. It looks like Chad McGinley's probably sitting pretty. I mean, he's got a 50-point gap to second place. Got to think Chad's the favorite at this point to get to Phoenix. I do believe this is our final race of the year. So really looking forward to seeing Chad McGinley, who's going to be starting on pole here again today. Maybe he'll be able to extend that point lead. Not even have to show up for the last 2 races. He's just been doing such a good job the last few weeks. The entire At the Top Motorsports guys have just shown a lot of speed recently. Chad McGinley, Bobby Mantle, Stephen Knight, they've all just been super quick.
100%. Of course, we have the, I do believe, starting grid, the starting lineup all set in stone here. Chad McGinley going to be up on the pole here. New driver to the series, though. This is interesting. The 26th of John Mateo going to have the outside pole here. 3rd place, David Holsey. 4th place, Steve Gerber. 5th place, Michael Hayes. 6th place, Joshua Slade. 7th, Bobby Mantle. 8th, Tyler Honeycutt. 9th, John Howard. Another new driver. So we got some new faces out here. 10th place, Ricky Hudgens.
11th place is going to be Michael Lester, followed by Stephen Knight in 12th. Justin LeBlanc in 13th. Joshua Winger in 14th. Ron Holmes in 15th, and Kenny Heath in 16th. And what's really interesting is looking at the top 9, all within 12, hundredths of each other. I mean, that's really impressive to see the entire field separated by, just over a 10th from 1st to 9th place.
Yeah, that's definitely very interesting, and I'll tell you, it's fairly easy to qualify at this place. I mean, you kind of run a lot like you would in a normal super speedway. You kind of run that top groove, of course, the out lap, and then, maybe even the top groove on your first lap, and you just kind of drop down on that last lap, and you run the bottom wide open. And a lot of times you can make a lot of speed, so that's going to make it a lot more, difficult, I'd say, to differentiate yourself from the rest of the competition here. But it looks like we're set to go 134 laps here tonight. Of course, 4 sets of tires going to be down in the pits for these drivers. If I'm not mistaken, I think the fuel window is about 45 to 50 laps. So we're going to possibly see some green flag stops. As I mentioned, though, long run is going to be quite difficult for these drivers. Now, it's going to be really easy to drive it in the first going, no matter what setup you have, I think, as well. I don't think it's going to really matter. I think long run is going to be where your setup and the way you drove the car is going to really start to, to rear its ugly head in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. All these things are going to get pretty loose, especially through turns. The exit of turn 2, I'd have to say, are going to be really, really loose. But the drivers are coming through turns 3 and 4 right here, getting ready to take the green flag. Who's he going to be to the start-finish line? The only start of the race that's not designated by the race leader gives a really good chance to the outside pole sitter of John DeMatteo. Can he get a good enough jump to maybe take the lead on Chad McGinley on the outside? He's kind of lagging back a little bit before the green flag comes out, but the green flag is now out, and Chad McGinley is through the gears on the bottom of the racetrack. It looks like McGinley's going to easily clear the 26 of John DeMatteo. David Holsey hard on the back bumper of Chad McGinley, trying to follow him through into second place, as Mateo is actually way up the racetrack, kind of giving a lot of air to Steve Gerber there on the outside line. But man, they're falling all the way through the back of the pack. I mean, they're falling all the way to 4th place there on the outside line. And now Michael Hayes is looking to the outside, coming down the backstretch as Chad McGinley's just blocking all the way down the bottom of the racetrack from David Holsey, not giving Holsey any of an opportunity to get to his inside before they get to turn 3. And Michael Hayes is trying to make that bottom line work through the corner, trying to get a good run here on the 57 so he can make a move going down to turn 1. But it looks like Holsey's going to get to the inside of Chad McGinley before they get down to the corner. McGinley higher on the outside. Well, David Holsey's stuck on the bottom.
What a run here for David Holsey on the bottom here, side by side for the lead. Of course, the bottom side here at Vegas in the Cup car and in the truck are both loose on the bottom. There are bumps down there, so watch out. Can David Holsey make this pass happen? I know with the competition that I ran, of course, earlier in the week in C Open, the middle groove was the place to be, but Holsey looking like a rocket ship on the bottom right now early.
Yeah, it looked like Holsey was maybe going to get that move done, but it looks like McGinley was able to get a good enough run off the corner to get it back to his outside before they got down into turn 1. Holsey's kind of sliding up in the middle of the corner, trying to shut the door on McGinley. McGinley has to lift, coming off just a little bit, and Holsey's going to take the position away from Chad. Big power move there from David Holsey here, trying to make some noise in the playoffs at this point. Even though he's not a playoff driver anymore, he's still trying to race for the race wins. Every single win is so important to these guys. You got to think they want that win bad, even whenever they're knocked out of the playoffs.
Well, yeah, and you also got to keep in mind, I mean, the 5 Aces camp very strong in portions of this season, and unfortunately, it just seemed like they lost a lot of the momentum, but it looks like he's hit the ground back running here. Side by side, though, Joshua Slade. Slade has been impressive in this late season. Of course, not a playoff driver as well, and that's one of the things that, kind of is interesting to see these non-playoff drivers coming out here and really just roughing some of these playoff drivers up. And, of course, they have every, I'd say, they have every right to race. I mean, to go for glory. I mean, just like in real NASCAR, you're going to see that non-playoff driver. He's going to race just as hard as some of the playoff drivers.
Yeah, anytime that there's a checkered flag available, everybody's going to be gunning for it. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a playoff guy or not. You're going to want to go across that checkered flag first, get that checkered flag and take it home, but it looks like they're still racing hard for the lead. McGinley kind of fading to the inside, but David Holsey covers them off down into the inside of turn number 3, able to take away that air. It looks like Joshua Slade's going to be able to get to the inside of Chad McGinley for second place, coming off of turn 4 into the front finish line. Looks like they're side by side going down into turn 1. This McGinley just give them the position. It looks like Slade's going to take it before they get to the corner.
What I find interesting, of course, you start qualified on the outside pole. John DeMatteo falls all the way back to now 8th place. He just dropping positions like rocks here. He just got passed by Justin LeBlanc. As well as we see Steve Gerber working his way up. He, of course, is trying to battle, I do believe, with Tyler Honeycutt for that 5th place position. That's where all the battling really happens, is here comes Joshua Slade, challenger for the lead.
Yeah, Joshua Slade side by side with David Holsey going down into turn number 1. He's got the nose on him just a little bit before they get to the corner. Holsey kind of pitches them before they get to the corner, but it looks like Slade's able to use the momentum on the inside line and completely clear Holsey before they get to the exit, but Holsey peeks back out on the outside, able to get back to the right rear quarter panel of that 12 truck on the outside, going down to turn 3, almost a little bit of contact before they get down into the corner. He's pinching them heavily in the center of 3 and 4, just trying to pull them back just a little bit, maybe get them a little bit arrow loose coming off the corner. Not quite able to do that, but he's still got the run on the outside.
I mean, we're only 7 laps in. Just started lap number 8, actually, and these guys are just going crazy. Like, this is the last lap of the race, so definitely very, very exciting, as well as we see Chad McGinley rocketing around that top side, trying to battle with Michael Hayes. So 2 by 2 they go. Of course, Michael Hayes falls back a little bit now into the clutches of possibly Tyler Honeycutt. Honeycutt looking incredibly fast. Lap times right now, I think he's running some of the fastest on the racetrack. Justin LeBlanc as well. Of course, LeBlanc has been moving up through the championship ranks quite successfully here in the late goings of the season. And he, of course, is doing the same thing here in this field. Side by side still, though, for the lead.
Yep, Slade is just not able to clear Holsey just yet. It seems like Holsey has just enough of momentum coming off the corners to stay on the right rear quarter panel and then drag Slade down with the side draft all the way down the back stretch, all the way down the front stretch every lap. But in turns 3 and 4, they get really close, really tight to each other. They're just about touching in the middle of 3 and 4. Also, once again, just on lap 9, these guys are racing like it's the last lap.
Yeah, I mean, you could fit a sheet of paper between those drivers just now. I mean, they are definitely racing each other hard, but that's one thing about it. I think Holsey and Slade have raced each other for a long time. They trust each other in a lot of ways. So I think this is just business as usual for these two drivers. I think they definitely can lean on each other a little bit, but is it too early? I mean, we've talked about that before. Is it too early? You see Slade kind of pinching the 57 up, not wanting to really give him that arc into the corner.
Yeah, and I feel like Holsey's just getting a little loose through the center of the corner, and I think that as the tires wear, that's going to hurt him a little bit more. I think Slade's been a little bit more steady there on the inside line, but Holsey's just able to hold the momentum right now. I think if Holsey makes just that one mistake and it be just a little bit bigger of a wiggle, just a little bit of a twitch out of that 57, and the 12 is going to be completely clear. But, man, we got a complete pack behind these guys for the race lead. I mean, they're side by side for 4th. Also, that's Chad McGinley, who's fallen back to P4, and he's got Steve Gerber on his outside, as the race leaders are just still side by side all the way through 3 and 4, just about dooring each other all the way through the corner.
Yeah, this has been fantastic racing all throughout this pack. Everybody very close on speed, and I kind of mentioned it was going to be a lot like what you'd see at a super speedway. Just kind of a mini Daytona, almost 3 wide as McGinley thinks about going underneath Michael Hayes, but not quite able to get that nose underneath him. Slade's starting to get a little bit tight coming off of 2, as the tires, I think, are starting to wear a little bit. We're seeing about 2 to 3 tenths of fall off from some drivers.
I feel like we're watching 180-mile-an-hour pace laps with everybody just 2 by 2 all throughout the field. Nobody really able to make a move, as the guys in front are just kind of stacking everybody behind them up in the 2-wide sequence. I mean, nobody's able to get kind of that run to clear up front, and that's kind of preventing anybody from behind to get any type of run to be able to clear anybody else as well. And if they could get single file up front, you might see some more moves towards the middle part of the pack, kind of work a little bit more, as we see Michael Hayes start to fade backwards as he's kind of stuck on the bottom lane. He was running P3, tried to make a move to the bottom, almost made it 3 wide on the front stretch about a lap and a half ago against Joshua Slade and David Holsey for the race lead. But it looks like that move that he made to the inside is just hurting him, because he's let Steve Gerber get by. John DeMatteo also, he fell from 2nd place to 9th place in the early running of this. Maybe he was just saving his tires a little bit, because he's all over the back bumper of Steve Gerber for P3.
No, I think that's exactly what it is. I think I was just getting ready to say that some drivers are going to prioritize, I think, saving the tires a little bit for that 20-plus lap run. And I think that's exactly what John Mateo did. He seems like he's got a little bit better speed right now, and the fall off for all these drivers continues to just increase. I mean, we're seeing a half a second, almost 6 tenths at the moment. This is still side by side for the lead. Steve Gerber with some technical difficulties. 3 wide. Tyler Honeycutt in the middle here. Could this possibly be a powder keg waiting to explode?
Well, and those little issues there for Steve Gerber allowed John DeMatteo to get through to P3. I mean, he's completely climbed his way back up to the front of the field, as it looks like David Holsey's finally got the run off the top side. Also, maybe the tires are just going away on the 12 of Joshua Slade. He's been pinched on the bottom of the racetrack lap after lap. I mean, they were side by side for about 10 laps. You got to think those tires were just hurting for Slade. And finally, David Holsey was able to make the pass, able to make the move stick. But now Slade, you would think he would get a reprieve after giving up that spot and falling back to 2nd place. But now John DeMatteo is on his outside for P2.
No, I think you're exactly right. I think Holsey was trying to make sure to pinch Slade down. That way that Slade was having to really bend it on the bottom off these corners and not really able to track up. You can watch right now, the 12 is getting tight. Slade is not liking the way that car is handling right now. This is not the Joshua Slade we're used to seeing, as he is now 3 wide in the middle, and that is In the NIS, we saw that. That was no man's land being in the middle 3 wide. So I think Slade's probably not going to like it as much either.
Yeah, luckily for him, he was able to clear Steve Gerber, though, through the middle of the corner, take the high side away from him instead of being stuck in the sucker hole, only falling back to P3, and now he's back on the outside line. This is kind of where you can kind of cool off those tires and maybe just hope and pray that you can just make some normal laps, make some just a couple laps of a normal run without having to fight anybody. I mean, he's been side by side since the drop of the green flag, but now he's kind of got a little bit of space as long as he doesn't allow Steve Gerber to get to his outside. Steve Gerber actually goes to the inside. That's probably okay if you're Joshua Slade. You're like, okay, you can take the inside. I've been stuck down here that whole time. I just need to run some laps on the outside, save my tires a little bit, not have to turn the wheel as much through the center of the corner. And it looks like he's going to be able to hold on to that P3 position.
Yeah, you could definitely tell that I think Gerber's wanting to make something happen. But I think just like what we saw in the NIS, in the Cup car, the trucks are a lot, of course, they're vastly different. But one thing about this track that they are the same is that the passes are probably going to happen on the top later in the run, especially. You're going to be able to get that run on exit that the other guys are not going to. And as the run goes on, the bottom is going to get looser and looser and looser, depending on your setup, of course. So, it just seems like the top is going to be where everybody's going to kind of progress. As you can see, even John Mateo, he's kind of looking to try to see if he can get above David Holsey.
Yeah, I think John DeMatteo might be the fastest truck on the racetrack right now. I mean, David Holsey's got the lead, he's got the clean air, but DeMatteo's keeping it really, really close the entirety of the racetrack, just kind of getting that clean air anytime he gets the opportunity. Finally, Holsey kind of pulls up in the middle of turn 2, takes that clean air away from the 26, just trying to give him a little bit of dirty air, prevent him from having to run off the corner, because DeMatteo's been way quicker coming off the corners than Holsey has the last couple of laps, and it looks like he's just kind of changing his line to make sure that he takes away that advantage that 26 has found.
And, of course, Joshua Slade continues to struggle. He just got passed by Steve Gerber. Finally, Gerber up onto the podium. What a run for the 8 of Steve Gerber. This is probably one of the best running races he's been in thus far. And it seems like he's not slowing down right now. I mean, look, last time by, he was faster than both of the top 2. Watch out for the 8.
Yeah, Steve Gerber doing a really good job there. He was almost able to get to the inside of DeMatteo, but Matteo just kind of covered that off. But now it looks like John DeMatteo's to the inside of David Holsey, just about gets into his left rear quarter panel, coming off the racetrack, or coming off the corner. He had to lift out of the gas, and that's going to allow Steve Gerber through to P2 with just about no challenge.
Wow.
Gerber to the outside of the 26. He easily takes it before they get
He drove by him like it was nothing there, and that's what it is. I mean, as soon as the 26 tried to challenge the 57, Gerber was able to capitalize, and of course, Gerber's on the same team as David Holsey, so he's going to cut him a lot more slack. As you see Joshua Slade almost pushing the 26 into the corner. I think the 26 starting to have some handling woes in the middle of 3 and 4. He gets passed by Michael Hayes.
Yeah, he got crazy loose on the outside of 3 and 4. We saw some smoke coming out of those tires. Those rear tires were crying through the middle of the corner, and unfortunately, he's going to drop all the way back to about 5th place position. DeMatteo was just about fighting for the lead not too long ago, but unfortunately now back to P5 as Steve Gerber is trying to look to the inside of David Holsey. These 5 Aces group has really brought a really good setup here to Las Vegas, it seems. Only 23 laps into the run, and the front 2 are starting to separate themselves from the rest of the pack.
Seems like they're really good on the long run for sure. As we can, of course, see further back, there's a lot of battling a little bit further back in the pack. I think I see Justin LeBlanc fighting with, I think, Tyler Honeycutt. You also see Ricky Hudgens, Justin LeBlanc, all right there in the mist. Chad McGinley, Bobby Mantle. I haven't talked a whole lot about Mantle. I'm surprised he's not doing better here. Of course, give it some time. Conditions of the racetrack are going to change. I have no doubts we're going to see some sort of caution at some point here today, but so far it's been very, very clean and green. And but I think tire wear is starting to be significant. We're almost seeing upwards of almost a second of fall off. And I talked about it before, that 20-plus lap, that's when the tires really start to struggle. And you're going to be able to see who brought the good setups, who brought the bad ones.
Couldn't quite tell who it was, but somebody was just about mowing the grass in the back. I believe that was Lester in 14th place, able to hold on to that truck. I think that was towards the back of the pack coming off of turn number 4. But still, the front 2, they were kind of pulling away from the rest of the pack, but it looks like Michael Hayes might have something for him. He was 0.5 of a second back not too long ago, and he's starting to... Oh, David Holsey sideways coming out of turn number 4, and that's going to allow Steve Gerber to his outside coming off the corner. David Holsey's going to drop 1, maybe 2 positions.
Oh, no, this has definitely changed things quite significantly for the 57. As we're going to take a look back at this replay here to see exactly what happened to David Holsey. He was running right in the middle of the track, right above the first seam, and just all of a sudden got loose. I'm wondering if maybe got back to the gas a little too quick, or maybe had a little too much wheel in it. I'd definitely be curious to know what exactly happened there. It looks like he is still trending loose as he follows behind Michael Hayes. He is trying to keep that truck going in the right direction as he goes down to the apron. I know if that truck's loose, I would not want to go down on that apron, that's for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't a too crazy bad of a moment there from Halsey. He didn't get too sideways, but still, just that little bit was enough for him to stall his momentum, allow 2 trucks to get by. And now Michael Hayes to the inside of Steve Gerber, coming off of turn number 2, dives it down into turn number 3. Gerber way up the racetrack, giving Michael Hayes a ton of room there on the bottom, and it looks like Hayes is going to be able to take the position coming off of turn number 4.
Tell you who's had a significant recovery has been Joshua Slade. Joshua Slade earlier in the run in that 15 to 20 lap run, he seemed like he was struggling substantially, but it looks like he has really recovered well. He's up to 4th, of course, is battling with John DiMaggio, trying to get underneath Matt Tomattio, of course. I keep saying DiMaggio. He's trying to get underneath David Halsey. Battle's definitely eating up for 3rd right now as you can see these guys looking at their child. Oh, the 26 up into the outside wall as we're side by side for the lead.
Yeah, it looked like he just touched the wall right before the turn-in point. It kind of sucked him in and didn't let him off of it at any point through the exit of the corner. Good job from him keeping it up there, though. So many times I've seen somebody pull it off the outside wall and just collect 3 or 4 other trucks, other cars. Good job there from De Matteo to just kind of keep it up there and not make it a bigger issue than it could have been. But, man, they're still side by side for the race lead just about. Hayes has given Steve Gerber a lot of room. I got to say it. He was clear off of 2. Probably could have taken that spot, jumped out into the outside line, but he's showing a lot of respect here to Steve Gerber, not pushing the issue too much, and it looks like he's finally going to get the move done in turn 3.
I do also got to mention one driver that is absent from tonight's race, or today's race, I should mention, Stephen Hayes, not here. I know he is a playoff driver and desperately probably needs as many points as he could possibly get right now, so this is definitely not the race you want to miss. But, of course, brother Michael Hayes definitely capitalizing, of course, leading the charge in the Lone Star camp as he, of course, follows now the Nellis backstretch.
And this field is just extremely, extremely close from 1st to 11th place, separated by 2 seconds after 30 laps into a run. Really impressive from all these guys just to be able to keep in touch with the race lead. Really close race, and we're seeing all throughout the pack right now as Michael Hayes is still leading them down into turn 1.
Yeah, Michael Hayes, of course, in control as you see everybody kind of starting to use that bottom groove a little bit more, which is kind of surprising. It looks like Hayes' truck very much likes handling down there. Now, of course, we talked about it earlier, it seemed like running down there might burn the tires up, but I think some drivers really like it. I know most tracks, you see mile and a halves, bottom side is the place to kind of save the tire. So I think maybe Hayes' car is set up for exactly that. And it just seems like he just seems to be prioritizing the long run. And that could very well be the play of the race. I mean, to have that long run speed, just considering, I mean, the races we've seen recently have been incredibly green.
Yeah, we're probably going to be sneaking up on green flag pit stops here pretty soon as well. I think that if you cut it into thirds, you're going to make it 45, lap 90, and then all the way to the end. So I do expect pit stops around the lap 42 to 47 mark, and we're just slowly creeping up on that as we've kind of single filed out. I think a lot of people's tires are starting to hurt them a little bit more. They're just kind of content with where they're riding, just trying not to lose too much time to the leader. And we could see it jumble up a lot on the pit stops, depending on who pits first, who gets those new fresh tires on, and then they might fade towards the end of that second run because they put on the tires maybe 1 or 2 laps before everybody else. It'd be interesting to see just the different strategies that we're about to see coming down to green flag pit stops.
And one thing about it as well, it's going to be incredibly difficult to get down pit road at this racetrack. This is a very difficult place to pit at. I mean, the banking change from the, of course, entry to pit road to, or should I say the entry into the actual lane itself is substantial. And when you're on these old tires, that's going to be something that's going to be incredibly difficult. As we see a challenge, I do believe Joshua Slade. Oh, Steve Gerber up into the wall after having some, I do believe, blinking issues. Does he have a lot of damage on that right side? I don't see too much. But that's going to cost him a lot of positions.
Yeah, he had gotten loose in 3 and 4, allowed David Halsey to get by for the second place position down the front stretch. And then he just got a little bit too high on the exit of turn 2 and really pancaked the side of the wall. But I don't see too much damage on the right side of that machine. I think he'll probably be all right. Even if we get a caution at some point, he might have like a 12-second kind of damage. But yeah, there's not really anything.
At all.
No, not at all. It almost looks like he didn't even touch the wall. So no harm, no foul there from Steve Gerber. Just unfortunate to see him drop from 2nd to 6th place now as he's on the outside of Justin LeBlanc, who's really trying to widen out the entry of that corner, just kind of faded to the outside and then ducks back down to the inside. But it looks like Gerber's going to have the run off the top side and be able to take the 6th place position back away from LeBlanc.
Yeah, glad to see him kind of recover. Of course, he lost almost a second just with that mistake. And He could have lost a lot more, that's for sure, as we see a big battle kind of happening here for that second place position. David Holsey's trying to, I think, take Joshua Slade's line. He's not exactly trying to give him the most room he possibly can. I mean, he wants to be where Slade wants to be, so definitely curious to see this kind of game of cat and mouse for second place.
Yeah, and Holsey's doing a good job. I mean, he's kind of using that as a bit of an air push down the front straightaway and the back straightaway too. He's taking the line, and then Slade will get up to his back bumper and not have enough momentum to make a move, but just that little bit of an air bubble in between the front bumper of Slade and the back bumper of David Holsey is just kind of propelling Holsey down the straightaways and able to get a huge run on Michael Hayes. I mean, he is all over the back bumper of Hayes before they get to turn 3. One more corner like that, and he's probably going to be side by side with Hayes going down to the turn 1. Hayes gets just a little bit twitchy through the center of the corner, has to chase it up the hill a little bit, but he's got a pretty good run off. It just depends on how big of a draft can Holsey get before they get down to turn 1. Might not be able to do it this time by.
And I feel like Michael Hayes is kind of uncomfortable on that middle groove. I don't think that truck's really built to do what he's trying to do with it. I think he saw Holsey and Slade coming. He's like, I gotta take their lane away. But I just don't think that truck really likes that lane. I think he's been favoring the bottom line. As you can see, he kind of goes a little bit further down onto the bottom of the racetrack. Let's see exactly how this turns out, of course, because he was able to defend, though. That does possibly put David Holsey under fire from Slade. It's like Holsey was able to defend against that as well. But here comes Chad McGinley. Qualified on the pole, fell back fairly quickly, has now recovered and resurgent. A little bit of a resurgence from him as well. Resurgence, I tell you, resurgence. Speak of Steve Gerber. The guy almost he hit the wall, fell back outside of the top 5. He's now up to 5th, and he's hitting the fastest laps of the field right now.
Man, I was wondering how many times you could say resurgent in a row without having a different word in between. I mean, my goodness, that was so many. But yeah, Steve Gerber having a good resurgence, cutting the lead down to 0.6 of a second from 5th place. But I just think that it's really hard to pass on the bottom of the racetrack right now. We saw Slade get to the inside of David Holsey there not too long ago, and as soon as he put it the inside, he could only last one corner and then had to back off because there's just not enough grip there on the old tires to make the inside line work whenever you're getting pinched down on the bottom lane. And then they just get such a huge run there on the outside as we saw David Holsey do. But a lot of the field is kind of migrating back down to the bottom whenever they're single file, but I still think that the preferred groove whenever you're side by side is the outside.
No, I definitely think you're right. And we're also noticing a little bit of a trend as well. The top 5 breakaway. I mean, 6th place right now, separated by about a half a second. As you see side by side once again for second place, David Holsey trying to hold off Joshua Slade. But you could tell everybody 6th on back is starting to really struggle, I think. You see Justin LeBlanc, 31-7, as he, of course, just got passed by Bobby Mantle. Chad McGinley, though, gets by Joshua Slade, and the reason is because Slade has gone down pit road.
Yeah, this is that lap 42 kind of mark that I was talking about. They actually come to the end of lap 41 before they come to pit road. I'm kind of surprised. It feels a little bit early to me. I think they're going to end up hurting on the tires a little bit later in the second run because you got to make it to about lap 90 so that you can make it to the end of the race if you're splitting it into even 2/3. So I think it might just be a little bit early from these guys, but you know, that's kind of the difference. Though you would probably rather do it a little bit earlier so that you can get multiple laps on the fresher tires instead of just 1 or 2. At this point, you got to think, okay, if Michael Hayes splits it exactly in thirds, he'll come down lap 45, and that'll be 4 laps of fresh tires that not Steve Gerber, Joshua Slade is able to have there from pitting early. So those 4 laps of fresher tires, they're about a little bit over a second of fall off so far. So he should probably come out in the race lead with about a 3 or 4 second gap, depending on when these guys come down the pit road.
Of course, battle is on still, I do believe, between Justin LeBlanc. These are teammates and Bobby Mantle. Teammates battling right now, and they're getting awfully close. Actually, I'm mistaken. They are not teammates. Justin LeBlanc is a Lone Star, while Bobby Mantle is at the top. So I made a bit of a mistake there, but it looks like Bobby Mantle does finally get the pass complete on LeBlanc. Still, the battle is on for the lead, though. I mean, David Holsey has been hounding Michael Hayes like crazy here for this lead. Now, you were kind of going back to what Joshua Slade did, pitted a little bit earlier. Now, having those couple laps fresher tires, earlier than everybody, he might be able to get to clean air. Now, how valuable is that going to be? It could be very valuable. It could even possibly save your tires a little bit better as well because you'll have more grip.
That's true, but just having the 4 lap older tires, I mean, you're going to have that oldness through the whole run. But it looks like David Holsey is able to get to the outside of Michael Hayes. I think Hayes is going to be pitting here this lap. He's way down on the apron, doing the same kind of fading to the bottom that Joshua Slade did whenever he was signaling that he was coming to pit road. I think that Michael Hayes is going to be coming down this time by. It looks like David Holsey is too, both of them coming down to pit road. That was an aggressive entry on the outside there from David Holsey to get back down to the bottom, but Hayes able to beat him on the pit road easily.
Yeah, for sure. Very interesting pit strategy there for Holsey. I guess he recognized the signs that Michael Hayes was going to be coming down and decided, hey, I'm going to come down with him. But unfortunately, he lost time from having to pit on the high side. Luckily, there was no contact there. They weren't really that close. No other drivers were really that close behind them, because that definitely could have been a scary situation. One thing a lot of people might not realize about the Global Racing Truck Series is these guys do not have in-race comms. The only way they're able to talk to each other is in Discord, and they are, of course, required to be in their particular specific team Discords. We want Steve Gerber, Tyler Honeycutt, and Justin LeBlanc all come to pit road.
Yep, just 3 drivers left on the racetrack here. Chad McGinley, Bobby Mantle, Stephen Knight, all the top guys kind of on the same strategy. Wanted to run it a little bit longer. We're going to have to see how long do they actually stay out on the old tires. Do they come in relatively early? It looks like they're going to be coming this lap. At least Chad McGinley is down on the apron on the inside. Bobby Mantle and Stephen Knight closing up the gap heavily coming down to pit road, though. Actually able to get almost to the back bumper of Chad McGinley. Cut down that gap to the lead that they had by a pretty wide margin, I got to say, from the 2 guys in the rear, Mantle and Knight, doing a really good job getting down pit road.
I'm very impressed with the performances we've been seeing on pit road here today. I mean, it seems like no one's really having too many problems. I guess whenever I did my C Open, I guess I was just a crappy driver, D-class race car driver, you know. Because I tell you, man, it's kind of difficult. But these guys are making it look easy. Of course, it just shows the skill level of some of these drivers here in the Global Racing Truck Series. They're used to driving these trucks, and they have gotten fairly, I'd say, competent at tracks like Las Vegas.
No, but to your point, I feel like this is one of the harder pit roads to get onto. I mean, that's a heavy banking change coming from turn 4 onto the apron, onto the pit road. And it's kind of deceptive because you have a lot longer to get on the brakes once you get on the apron than it really looks like. There's one white line that you kind of think, okay, that's where I got to slow down by. But it's actually another like 100 yards down the road is the yellow cone that you got to get to. It's just a little deceptive, I would have to say. But you can kind of be a little bit more aggressive once you get on the apron. It's just that transition from the banking to the apron that's so tough.
And I do want to mention as well, John DeMatteo, of course, who had qualified on the outside pole, is up in the lead right now. He pitted 15 laps ago. He's on a very odd strategy. I think, of course, that might have been provoked from him hitting the wall earlier. But I think now's the perfect time. Let's go ahead and take a quick step away, pay some attention to our sponsors. We'll be right back with some more action here at Las Vegas.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Self-conscious. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Grip Vision's coverage of the Global Racing Truck Series here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Of course, if you're just joining us, we just completed green flag pit stops. Battle is on, though, I do believe, for second place and getting ready to be for the lead. My name's Brian Britt. Of course, Austin Estrom is my co-commentator, Austin Darbyshire. Down behind the cameras, here we go. Of course, old tires getting passed by new. Michael Hayes retakes the lead.
And what I'm more surprised about is the fact that Michael Hayes and Joshua Slade are so far ahead of everybody else that took tires as they're side-by-side now for the race lead. Probably not what you want to do now, because if they stay side-by-side for too long, it's going to burn their stuff out, and they're going to allow that huge pack behind them to be able to close them back down relatively quickly. But I don't think that either of these drivers really care about that right now. Coming to lap 57 here, not even halfway through, Joshua Slade's trying to take that lead away from Michael Hayes. They're side-by-side at the start-finish line. I'm going to have to keep an eye on the gap to see just how much time they lost that lap. Being side-by-side, it was 0.4 of a second. If they keep this up for much longer, that pack is going to be breathing down their necks.
Yeah, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, I don't know where a driver like David Holsey, where he lost the time. He spent about, I think, 40.9 seconds from one end of pit road to the other. Michael Hayes, 39.9. That might add up, but that's just a lot of time in between this Michael Hayes, Joshua Slade group, and, of course, back there to Chad McGinley and David Holsey. Of course, they're battling in that second pack just as hard as Michael Hayes and Joshua Slade are.
Yeah, David Holsey's to the inside of Chad McGinley back there for P4, as De Mateo's just kind of being in the middle. They might catch a little bit of a draft off of him at some point. But, man, they're 3 wide for that P4 position going down into turn number 3. I mean, just hard racing all throughout the field as they're side-by-side in the middle of the corner, contact on the bottom of the racetrack. A little bit more coming off the corner as well.
I'm telling you, David Holsey did not want to give Bobby Mantle any room, but it did not matter. Mantle, not denied, slides up right in front of the 57. The racing here has gotten crazy. Oh, the 57 bumping him. This could turn ugly. Oh, my goodness. Look at how wiggly we're seeing the 89. Oh, there goes David Holsey into the outside wall. And this is going to bring the first caution flag of the night out. Bumper is flying off of the 57 of David Holsey. Oh, my goodness. And somehow they glued it back on. I don't know how that works, but okay.
Just teleports back onto the race car. No, but yeah, we're going to watch the replay here. Chad McGinley was coming on the outside. And it looked like David Holsey was just kind of sliding up, trying to follow Bobby Mantle, maybe just try to get back in front of McGinley, but I think he was a little too late. McGinley's out there, and just looked like the 57 might have turned himself across the nose of the 28.
Yeah, no, exactly. He wasn't clear. I mean, you know, McGinley was up there, and that's just unfortunate to see. And, man, 57 had such a fast race car, too, and just right here. He was being just really aggressive with Mantle. And if he had gone earlier up there in front of McGinley, he would have been completely fine. But because he was just playing games with Mantle, and because he was playing with Mantle, he wasn't paying attention to the driver behind him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He made a little bit of contact with Mansell because Mansell got down on the apron in 1 and 2, and the 57 just didn't get out of it quick enough in the middle of the corner, which, you know, no problem, just a little bit of a bump. But then you can obviously see just kind of got checked up from Mansell, allowed McGinley to have that run on the outside of the racetrack, and he just pulled up a split second too late.
Yeah, definitely a heartbreaker there. 57 had such a good run, and hopefully he'll be able to get some of that damage fixed. I know with the new damage model that they have, recently unveiled, it's been a lot easier to get back into the game. You know what I mean? Like you could have some severe damage, but still be able to get a lot of it fixed. If you have enough time. Um, but we'll have to wait and see how that kind of works out. Of course, Ronald Holmes right now, I think the leader. I'm pretty sure he stayed out. That's curious. 15 laps on his equipment here. Wonder how this is going to play out. This is definitely very curious. I know his fastest lap was pretty quick lap. I'm not sure exactly what his how he's been on the long run, but haven't really seen him up in the top 10. So I'm not sure how this is going to play out. This could be a little bit of a dangerous scenario. I know 14 laps. That's around when about guys started struggling a little bit more on the tire.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a little bit too early to do anything like that, and they've got enough tire sets to where I feel like that's just a little bit of a strange call there from Holmes to stay out at this point. I don't know. I feel like they got too many tire sets to kind of make that kind of strategy play.
They have 4 sets, of course, down in the pits. They've already used, I do believe, now the majority of the drivers have used 2. So he, of course, is going to have 3 left. Now, if we do kind of break down into more of a caution fest, that actually could be a good play. But if you're the cause of the caution, not so much. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of times we see guys that make this decision to stay out, and it actually plays out to where they look like a genius. So, I mean, we'll see if Ronald Holmes, of course, is able to really capitalize on this for sure. Of course, Joshua Slade on the newest tires. He's going to be starting in second place. But, of course, Michael Hayes, I think he's going to have somewhat of an advantage starting on that inside. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out. I just know that, especially tracks like this, starting on that high side, it's very difficult to gauge when the leader goes. So it just really depends on how predictable Holmes is on this restart.
And even if he's not predictable, I just don't think there's anything he can do to hold off guys like Joshua Slade, guys like Michael Hayes on the new tires. I mean, they've been the 2 fastest probably throughout the race. There's been a couple other guys who've been up there as well. Chad McGinley finding something on the long run. David Holsey before he got that damage. But I don't know. I feel like Ronald Holmes is just going to be a little bit of a sitting duck.
Speaking of David Holsey, he's back in now 15th place. One driver I've been looking at that was really, really quick before the green flag pit stops was Steve Gerber. I think he's going to be one to really watch. Of course, Bobby Mantle showed a lot of aggression there in that second stint. What can he do? Michael Hayes, though. I think Michael Hayes has probably got one of the best trucks here right now. We'll have to see what he's able to do as well. I mean, there's a lot of equal trucks, I think, out here pretty much. I mean, a lot of guys are just playing different strategies. I don't know if they're necessarily stronger or weaker. We'll just see how this kind of all plays out. Has anybody learned anything?
I think the big winner on that caution was probably the 26 of John DeMatteo, as he was completely off strategy from the rest of these guys, pitting about 10, 15 laps earlier than everybody else. And he was falling back throughout the pack. He had just lost the race lead, was going back to 3rd place. But lucky for him, that caution came out, and it's going to put him right back on strategy with everybody else, and it was able to jump him up to the P3 spot. We saw him get into the wall on that first green flag run before the pit stops. He had to pit early. He had fallen back to about 10th before the pit stops, and now he's running in P4. He was P3 before that caution. So just it turns out to be a really good strategy call there from DeMatteo, even though if it would have ran green, it probably wouldn't have been.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Of course, Joshua Slade and John DeMatteo, both on the same team, One of One Motorsports. Of course, Joshua Slade, I do believe the team owner. So they're lined up right behind one another. Can they help each other out? We're getting ready to find out as the pace car gets ready to take that left turn down pit road at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. What an entertaining race we've seen thus far. We appreciate you joining us. We're entering the Geico restart zone. Green flag is back out in the air. Ronald Holmes absolutely guns it. He knows he's at a disadvantage. He's like, I just need to get going and hope a caution comes out, I think.
Yeah, he went as early as possible, but it's still not going to be enough. Michael Hayes is going to be all over him coming out of turn 2, looking to the outside now before they even get to the exit of the corner. Michael Hayes is going to be there, and he's got a huge push from Joshua Slade down the backstretch as well. The 1 and the 12 are both going to take this position away from the 3 relatively easily through 3 and 4. But I got to kind of give a shout out to the Lazy Lizard group. Ronald Holmes there leading the lap, but I like his paint scheme. It's got the Patriots on it. I'm not a Patriots fan, but if you look at the front bumper where the little 3 is, where you put your number on the front bumper. It's got 28-2 over it, and his poor teammate in the back of the back, Michael Lester's got an Atlanta Falcons scheme on. So obviously a big reference there to his teammate getting absolutely destroyed in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. I love that down on the bottom of the bumper.
You love that little friendly little jests and jabs at each other. Isn't that just something? That's definitely great to see. Of course, back to the front, though, we got Michael Hayes and Joshua Slade dueling it out. Now, we've seen these guys in so many races, Austin. They have really been, I think, the focal point on entertainment. These guys, Slade and Hayes, race each other like no one else races each other. I mean, they always are pushing each other to the absolute limit.
And it seems to be the mile and a half as well. I mean, wasn't it these two at Kansas that were battling for the race lead for a large portion of that race? I want to say
crossover after crossover. I mean, it was just...
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable there at Kansas. And again, it's the same two guys up at the front of the field. But you got to say, Bobby Mantle, he had an EOL at the beginning of this race, able to pick his way through the field. Now it's a P3. We have not talked about him much today, but he had kind of cleared that battle where that accident happened right before the caution. And he's now found himself into P3. Really good recovery drive from Bobby Mantle to be able to come from the back of the pack all the way up to P3 at the halfway point. Once you get up here towards that, if you're up to the top 3 before the halfway point, man, you've really put yourself in a good position to maybe win this race.
No, I definitely agree. I think Mantle has been one of the best drivers this season. I got to be completely honest. I mean, I think the 89 has been just every race he's been in contention for podiums. He's been in contention for wins. Of course, he hasn't won as many times as I think he possibly could have, but he's definitely been very consistent. And, of course, but now he's getting challenged by a non-playoff driver, Tyler Honeycutt, all over that rear end of now Joshua Slade, as well as Chad McGinley. Of course, McGinley on the same team as Mantle. As we start, of course, lap 70 here of this 134-lap race. This thing has been quickly clicking down as Joshua Slade touches the apron a little bit. This is going to open the door for the 2 machine.
Yep, Honeycutt to the inside, trying to take the P2 spot, but it looks like it's going to open the door for Bobby Mantle on the outside to get out there for Pete. Oh, he gets turned in the middle of turn 3. Bobby Mantle gets a little bit of a shove from the 26, able to hold on to that truck on the bottom of the racetrack. What an insane save from Bobby Mantle to hold on to it. Oh, but there's more.
It's not over.
Somebody else started to the outside wall.
Oh, my goodness. That was Mantle that just got into the outside wall right in front of Kenny Heath. I think Heath might have sustained a little bit of front-end damage. Somehow the caution flag does not fly after all of this. Oh, my goodness. This is going to definitely require a replay as we take a look back. Oh, it's still not over. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, we're going to have to definitely look back at this after. But we see, of course, the accident here. Mantle getting a huge run up to the back of Joshua Slade. The 26, of course, DiMatteo gets into the rear end of Mantle when Mantle has to check up. Mantle saves it. But it's not over for Mantle yet. We need to keep an eye on him. Of course, Mantle is able to save it. And there is a secondary crash that somehow does not bring a caution out, but Mantle's race is over. He is now a lap down.
What the hell?
As we were going back to the replay, something else happened. Him and Michael Lester got involved. And look at this hit on the inside wall. This is definitely a race ender type hit at Las Vegas for sure. Very fast speeds whenever he hit that inside wall. Takes the toe. And man, we were talking so good about him. It looks like just him and Michael Lester getting, while he was trying to get it all kind of collected, Michael Lester just, I guess, I don't know if he didn't have patience for him or just didn't realize what was going on, but definitely a race ender there for Bobby Mantle.
I couldn't quite tell. It felt like Lester got to the outside before they exited the corner, but it's tough whenever you put it on the outside of somebody right as you get to the exit. The guy on the inside just kind of expects themselves to have that room. So it's just kind of bad timing, I feel like, whenever Bobby Mantle came up the racetrack. But obviously the first incident I don't put on him. He just got bumped going into turn 3, but it just went from bad to worse coming off at turn 2. We were just talking about his amazing recovery drive from the back of the pack to P3, and then all of a sudden it's done. Just like that, your race is over. Just so unfortunate for Bobby Mantle, especially being in the playoffs, getting taken out like that.
No, for sure. I mean, and the thing is I don't think it would have been as bad as if he, he saved it. He could have kept on going. Maybe a caution would have came out later in this race. He would have been right back in it. But unfortunately, bad went to worse. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of that was his own fault. Now, the initial spin was not his fault. I will say that exactly what you said. But I think maybe I don't know what Michael Lester did, but I know that Mantle was not able to really correct it. He should have just kind of just prioritized at least finishing the race, keeping going. I don't think, I don't know. I mean, this is definitely very curious. It's unfortunate. This is going to have huge championship implications. Michael Hayes, though, championship favorite possibly as well, up here battling for the lead. He has, of course, gotten clear of Joshua Slade. Slade still battling with Tyler Honeycutt. Both of these drivers, non-playoff drivers. Chad McGinley, of course, who was our pole sitter, is fighting right behind him as well.
Yeah, still side by side for the race lead. It just seems that whenever they get in the new tires, you really just can't get away from anybody, and you're just able to hold it side by side for so long. But it looks like finally Slade has lost out to Michael Hayes, and it looks like Tyler Honeycutt's going to be able to get to the outside of Joshua Slade here going down into turn number 3. Who gets the better run through the corner? Can either one of them clear them? I'd imagine probably not, unless one of them has to lift, but it looks like they're going to be side by side coming off the corner. Still Slade on the outside with Honeycutt driving hard on the outside.
Yeah, starting to get a little bit wiggly there for that 2 machine. I saw him wiggle off of turn 4 just now. This is probably going to maybe prompt a 3-wide condition here. Well, maybe not. Chad McGinley, of course, dives underneath the 2 machine. The 78 of John Howard, new driver to this series, definitely looking pretty quick here, up into the top 5 for the first time. It gets a little bit tight on the 2, but it looks like they stay off of one another. Of course, you can see he is another one-of-one motorsports driver working with his teammate John DiMatteo. So you can see Joshua Slade's been doing a lot of recruiting for that new team of his.
Yeah, but Honeycutt just got crazy loose in the middle of 3 and 4, going to lose a handful of positions. Lost out to Slade, lost out to Knight, lost out to McGinley, and it looks like he's still side by side with John Howard there on the bottom of the racetrack. Just losing position after position there from Honeycutt. Unfortunate for him to be able to slide back like that. Loses another spot to DiMatteo. Just looked like he was having a good run going there and just fell back to P7.
You see Chad McGinley kind of working with his teammate a little bit there. Of course, that being the 79 of Stephen Knight. Stephen Knight getting a little bit tight up on Joshua Slade. But, of course, Knight, very good drive for him right now going on to the apron. One thing about that apron here at Vegas, I don't recommend it. I really do not recommend going down there. I think it's not worth the gamble. You're going to maybe eat up your tires a little bit more, and you're also at the risk of somewhat not letting you back up onto the racetrack. They don't have to let you back up, Austin.
They don't have to, but if you don't, you're just asking to be wrecked. I mean, if I go down to the apron to make a pass on somebody and they don't, and they just hug the white line, right? If I'm too wide and they just hug the white line coming off the apron, before I get to the corner, I'm going to turn up like they're not there anyway. And if they get shoved into the outside wall, so be it. I mean, you just can't hold somebody down like that. It's part of the racetrack. And I would.
No, we got someone sideways. That is the 78 of John Howard, losing a myriad of positions. He's going to fall back outside of the top 10, as well as Steve Gerber, I think, having some issues.
Yeah, just people are starting to get a little, maybe a little frustrated. We're getting towards the end of the race, so maybe some of the tempers are starting to flare up a little bit. Still a little over 50 laps to go, but you can just see people are getting a little bit more impatient here. Every little opportunity they get, they're taking it. As Honeycutt was on the inside of the 78, and 78 just kind of came down. You know, Honeycutt was down on the white line, but still a good save there from the 78. But man, it just all kicked off there in the middle of it, coming off the corner. Multiple drivers having issues at the same time as Steve Gerber got to the outside wall once again, coming off of turn 2.
That's unfortunate. Of course, you know, Gerber getting into the outside wall is going to make his handling conditions probably even worse. Unfortunate, but Stephen Knight, I'll tell you, look at the speed this driver's displaying right now. 31.1 last time by, of course, 31.2 this time by. He's showing some really good laps. I think he might have something possibly for Michael Hayes. He is definitely running down the 1 machine at the moment.
Yeah, Stephen Knight, no shade to him, has kind of been the P3 of the top motorsport guys. It seems like Chad McGinley and Bobby Mantle have kind of been the ones winning the races, showing up towards the front of the field most of the time, with Stephen Knight just barely behind him in tow, kind of rounding up the 3rd place spot on the race team. But not here today, up to P2 right now. Stephen Knight showing himself a really good run coming from the back of the pack as well. He started back in the 12th place position, able to now work his way up to 2nd place, and is all over the back bumper of Michael Hayes down the backstretch.
Yeah, I think it would be really a huge confidence builder for this 79 if he was able to get a victory. You know, one of these days, I think he's capable. I think once he gets that first win, Austin, I think that's going to do just a ton for his confidence and also the chances of him winning more races as well. I think the 79's been consistent. He's been a very good team member to the at-top drivers. Of course, we've seen them almost have potential 1, 2, 3 finishes before, and I think that Knight's turn in the glory, in the light, is going to happen soon.
Yeah, you got to think it might. I mean, you keep bringing speed to the racetrack week after week. Eventually, you're going to break through and get that victory. And I feel like Steven Knights is just around the corner, and it could be here today as he's still hounding Michael Hayes, just keeping the draft, not really pushing too hard to get up to him, maybe just saving the tires a little bit because he knows he's got to make it to about lap 100 before you really want to make those final green flag pit stops here. And just kind of biding his time. You know, he's still got at least 15 laps on this set of tires before he makes a move on Hayes. But Hayes is starting to show a little bit of weakness through 1 and 2, just missing the bottom of the racetrack a little bit, getting just a little tight and then a little loose coming off the corner. And maybe Steven Knight's just seeing that, licking his chops, thinking, man, I could really get by this guy in a handful of laps if he just continues to make those mistakes. But then in 3 and 4, Steven Knight couldn't quite get down to the bottom.
Yeah, I'm curious. You talk about pitting on lap 100. Is that the strategy you would probably take? I mean, of course, we're, I do believe, about a little under 50 now to go. I am 24, 25 laps into this stint. I feel like maybe I'd pit maybe 95, possibly. Let's try to split it in half as best I could.
I think we saw how fast that second pack was coming up on the last green flag pit stop on Michael Hayes, who had pitted earlier than the at-the-top guys. The at-the-top guys were flying, and they had only pit 3 laps, 4 laps after Michael Hayes, and they were probably going to catch him at some point. And they pitted at lap 65, so that cuts us down to, or they went green on 65. So that's a full 70 laps to the end of the race. So you split that in half, and it's 35. And 35 plus 65 is 100. So I'd probably just split it dead in half, maybe just go off of what some of the drivers around me are doing. I would probably pit 1 lap after the leader, if I'm being serious. I think that's probably the best strategy, just so you put yourself on the fresher rubber than him. Maybe 2 laps if you're feeling a little bit frisky, but that's probably the strategy I'd employ if I was in this top 5 pack.
Definitely interesting for sure. Of course, you have a lot of experience, a lot more than I do. I'd say, well, maybe not a lot more experience on the racetrack than I do, but more, I'd say, success than I do.
Don't
so
sell
I
yourself
trust
too
your
short.
opinion. I've been on iRacing for quite a bit of time. I've turned a whole lot of laps. Now, they haven't necessarily been fast laps, you know. But I'm just saying, like, I definitely would respect your opinion because, I mean, you've found a lot of success. Your iRating is quite high. You've even been in the NIS broadcast while I was calling the race, and on the racetrack. You were on the racetrack and doing exceedingly well for top. I mean, anybody that can make a top split NIS on Friday night has got some knowledge. So that's why I would be like, okay, I want you on the box for me, Austin.
Well, I'd say a good bit of my wins on iRacing have come by strategy. Probably, I think I've got a little over 100 wins, and I think probably 30% of those are strategy wins, not even pace, right? I wasn't the fastest guy in probably 30-40% of those races, and I just out-strategied other people. So I appreciate that. I think that's probably my strong suit, and I just kind of think that that's a smarter thing to do. We've seen a lot of tire wear here, and we saw, you take notes throughout the race, right? That first run, like I said, after they took the first pit stop under green, you saw that second pack really start to reel in Joshua Slade and Michael Hayes, who, yeah, they were battling side by side, so that accounts for a little bit of it, but they also had the newer tires. And I just think that the newer tires, over the course of 30, 35 laps, are going to prevail. We saw it Friday night with Brandon Edstrom also putting on newer tires towards the end of the race. I just really, really think that being on the fresher set is more important than maybe being, I don't know, a lap ahead in terms of undercutting and getting tires on a little bit early, because it's just going to give you 1 second if you take them on a lap early. You're going to get 1 second down the road, and then if somebody comes in the next lap, has a lap fresher tires than you, well, guess what? They're going to be a little bit quicker, and they're going to have the draft to pull up on you. So I just feel like at a mile and a half, especially, pitting a lap or two after the leader is probably the smart call, unless Michael Hayes waits until like lap 110. At that point, you gotta cut your losses and just come in.
Yeah, I don't think that's too far, definitely, to go. Let's take a quick look down at the top 10 as they stand right now. Michael Hayes, of course, running up in the lead. Of course, about a 10th back from him is Joshua Slade. Third place, of course, Chad McGinley. Fourth place, John DiMatteo, of course, who started on the outside pole. Definitely a good run for him so far in his debut race. Fifth place, Stephen Knight. Definitely a great job for him in the top. He was just running in second, of course, fell back to fifth. Justin LeBlanc, last week at Iowa, jumped up 6 positions in the points. Can he keep the momentum going? He sits 6th. Tyler Honeycutt, of course, in 7th place. Has been really good on the short run. David Halsey, having a little bit of contact there, I do believe. I think that is Ricky Hudgens, who we haven't talked a whole lot about. Won a couple weeks ago at Talladega. Of course, is going to take that 8th place position. Halsey's going to fall back tonight. Of course, Steve Gerber was running up in the top 3 earlier in the race, showed a lot of glimmers of speed and possibly even long-run speed later or early in the race. Unfortunately, it does not seem like that has been the case here later, as, of course, he's hit the wall several times.
Yeah, we still got hard racing towards the lead. Joshua Slade down to the bottom of Michael Hayes, going down to turn number 3, trying to get down there, trying to take the lead away from Michael Hayes before the pit stop cycle starts. Not quite able to do it there. He's going to have to either back up in line or just kind of concede second to Chad McGinley, but it looks like he's going to drive up the racetrack, try to block Chad all the way down the front stretch. It looks like he's going to be able to do that. It's now the 26 to the inside of Chad McGinley through 1 and 2. That little bit of a block from Slade slowed up the momentum there from Chad McGinley on the outside, but I just think that outside line is going to be a little bit too powerful, and McGinley's going to be able to take that position back.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what Joshua Slade is doing here to try to get by Michael Hayes has got to be because of the pressure of Chad McGinley. McGinley has been hounding Slade for the last 10 laps. I mean, he is all over the rear end. You can just see it right from our screens right here. That Chad, any sort of mistake that Slade makes, Chad is ready to pounce. As you see, Slade makes a little bit of a mistake. He hits the apron just a hair, and that causes him to get a little bit loose, goes up the racetrack a little bit, opens the door for Chad McGinley. Can he capitalize? He's got the run, and he gets clear for that 2nd place position.
Yeah, he dove it into turn 3, but it doesn't look like Slade's done yet. He gets it back to the right rear quarter panel of McGinley through the middle of the corner. Great center of the corner there from Joshua Slade to get back to the outside. And now he's got the preferred groove going down into turn number 1. I don't think McGinley's going to be able to defend the spot. He drives it in deep, trying to hold on to it, but it looks like Slade's just going to have the momentum coming off the top side and down the back.
I'm seeing Slade. Slade has been... Oh, here comes Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes giving the signal. He's giving the signal. Hands out the window. He's coming to pit road. And it looks like I think some other driver's thinking about doing it as well. Joshua Slade sees the signal. He's going to come down as well. Very good call for Slade. A lot better of execution than what we saw earlier from David Halsey.
Man, and whenever that happened, McGinley got crazy loose coming off of turn number 4, allowed John DeMatteo to get the race lead away and take it before they get down to turn 1. DeMatteo to the lead. Now all the at-the-top guys are looking like they're coming down. I think they notice the couple of guys that have been really quick coming down that last time by. They just want that 1 lap of fresher tires. As McGinley, Stephen Knight, and Justin LeBlanc all coming down pit road this time. The only one staying out on the racetrack is John DeMatteo. And I got to say, I don't like the strategy from Michael Hayes and Joshua Slade. I really, really believe that they should have been looking in their mirror and just waiting for the other guys to pit. They had the lead. They could have just waited a little bit because they had a little bit more track position. I just kind of feel like they needed to wait and to hold on to that advantage and keep the tire advantage at the end of this race. I really think that they should have waited another couple laps and just seen when the at-the-top guys were going to pit.
Definitely. No, I could see that being maybe an issue, them having one less lap of tire wear there, for the guys that just came, guys that just came down. So I can see maybe if they had waited just a little bit longer, that would have been cool. But, one thing I really want to give these guys credit for is they don't have the ability to communicate in the race, in the sim. And I love how they're using the line they're running to communicate when they're going to pit. I mean, they are clearly showing that, hey, I'm coming down pit road. It's almost like they're using their trucks to throw the hand out of the window to let them know, hey, I'm coming down. And it's clear to us even that they're coming down pit road. So that is really, I think, a great way to adapt to the situation of not having the radio comms.
Yeah, for sure. And they actually have a little bit bigger gap to McGinley than I would have thought. I think that Michael Hayes and Joshua Slade just did a much better job getting down pit road than McGinley did. And I think that's where most of this gap came from, because it was not enough tire wear for them to gain 3 seconds on the pit cycle from Chad McGinley and Stephen Knight. 1 lap. There's no way you gain 3 seconds over 1 lap. So I got to say, Michael Hayes and Joshua Slade just got down pit road way, way better than the at-the-top motorsport guys did.
Yeah, definitely curious to see. That's a big gap. I mean, that's about a 2-second gap right now. But now that green flag pit stops have cycled out, I think now's a good time. We'll go ahead and take a quick step away as we, of course, get started on the last 30 laps here at Vegas. We'll be right back.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Grid Vision's coverage of course, the Global Racing Truck Series at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Joshua Slade and Michael Hayes dueling right now for the lead. Now, this is bringing Chad McGinley back into the fray. We talked about how they, of course, had pitted and had a little bit of some different strategies. I know, Austin, you were kind of talking about you didn't like the strategy from Michael Hayes and Slade. They had gotten a pretty big lead with their strategy, though. It looks like they had done a little bit better on pit road, but they are now side by side and slowing each other down. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is the one thing they didn't need. But the thing is, McGinley and Knight were starting to reel them in just a little bit before they even got side by side. But still, it would have taken a lot longer. They could have saved their tires a lot more if they were just single file. And now they're just pulling McGinley and Knight back into the battle as they're only 0.7 of a second behind at this point. They were a little over 2 seconds at the time that they took the pit stop whenever everybody came off back onto the racetrack. But with these two being side by side, it just really nullifies their strategy. They took that short pit so that they could build a gap over McGinley, over Knight, over LeBlanc, and it's just gone because these guys have just been able to reel them in with them being side by side for so long. Now finally Slade gets clear of Hayes, but it's just too little too late. McGinley is there at this point, only half a second back. They're well within the draft going down the back.
Oh, and they're still battling here. You can see Michael Hayes drives underneath Joshua Slade. Slade tries to throw a block, not quite able to do it in time. And they go side by side once again. This looks a lot like what we saw at Kansas, just crossing each other over left and right here. One thing about it, though, I think that's helping Chad McGinley is he's got a teammate behind him. Stephen Knight is not battling Chad McGinley. So this, I don't know if the 12 or the 1 are going to have the resources to defend against the 28.
I don't think so either. And even they've got one lap older tires, and they've been running harder than the guys behind them have. And oh, they're turned! They're
turned into the outside wall. Huge hit. And that is going to take the front end completely off of the 1 of Michael Hayes. And his race is pretty much over. Wow. I mean, that is probably the most damaged front end I have ever seen. I mean, his bumper is dancing, essentially, as he takes the tow. And that was a violent crash. As we see Michael Hayes, of course, right there with the 12 of Joshua Slade. They were side by side, and you can see Slade just got a little too low on the 1 and turned him right into the outside wall.
There was a little bit of net code. There was a little gap in between them, but it wasn't a lot. Slade came down the racetrack trying to side draft him, and it just, I don't
I
know.
think that's the term, slide jack. I think that's it, slide
I mean,
draft. He slid him right into the wall.
he definitely did. I mean, that was a tough hit there for Michael Hayes, and that's a playoff driver who's battling for the race lead that just gets taken out. I mean,
Non-playoff
oh
driver that took him out.
yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know what to say about that one. That's it's not super cut and dry because, like I said, there's a little bit of net code in between them. Hayes bobbled off the bottom just a little bit, but I don't know. I think they could have been
Man.
racing smarter before that anyway, just being single file and not letting the guys behind them catch up to them. But I was talking about strategy, how I didn't think it was a good strategy. Well, I guess we're not going to find out because now they're just both out of contention at this point, both hard hits. Even though Slade doesn't have as much damage, that's still probably going to take him out of the running for the race win. But that's just heartbreaking to see between two guys who have been probably the class of the field all evening and now just taken out like that.
No, 100%. I think Michael Hayes has had one of the best trucks tonight, and unfortunately, I mean, I think he had the best chance to win this race, of course, because of the battling between him and Slade. That took away his chance, I think, in a lot of ways. But now it is absolutely abysmal. There's no chance for him to win. I think it's absolutely impossible. But Chad McGinley in the best spot right now, as well as Stephen Knight. Curious to see him. Of course, Justin LeBlanc as well has a good chance for some points. He's going to be carrying the Lone Star banner here for the rest of the night. I don't think there's any other Lone Star drivers really alive after that incident.
Did Tyler Honeycutt take 2 tires? I think he might have done some 2-tire fire here at the end of this race, trying to put himself up towards the front. That's kind of interesting. Only 20 laps to go. Oh, he didn't take any?
8.2 seconds in the box. I'm not sure, but here he comes. He's coming back down pit road. So I think I think because 2 tires, I think, takes at least 9 seconds or more. So I don't know. I mean, he could have taken 2. Maybe the truck's a little bit different. But either way, he's coming back down pit road. So maybe he just left them off for some reason and forgot to put them on and just thought, like, wait, I need tires. Like,
yeah, I think he accidentally had them unchecked. He didn't take 2. I went back and looked. He never had that right side pop up. So just kind of a mistake there from Tyler Honeycutt. But not going to fall back too far as there's only 12 cars on the lead lap at this point, and a couple of them are getting damage repair, so it'll probably be about 10th place as we go back to green. But that definitely opens the door. Well, I say opens the door. I feel like the favorite was going to be Chad McGinley or Stephen Knight or Justin LeBlanc anyway, just off of Hayes and Slade running each other so hard and being on a lap older tires. I feel like they were just going to give the lead up anyway, so it's hard for me to say a different favorite, but I mean, those were the 2 fastest trucks the entire night, I feel like they were the best. And if they've gotten a caution that wasn't them, they were going to be able to get back on strategy with everybody else and probably win the race. But obviously, they just kind of, I don't know. I feel like Slade came down. I hate to say or put complete blame on somebody like that because they're racing hard for the lead. It's not like they're running for 10th and somebody made a dumb move. They're just side drafting heavily, pinching heavily in the corner. But whenever you get to somebody's right rear quarter panel like that in the middle of the corner, sometimes you got to expect a little bit of net code, and sometimes race preservation needs to be on people's mind a little bit more. You got to make it to the end of the race to be able to win the race, and I feel like maybe Slade just wasn't thinking that at that point. And to be fair, I think he was probably a little frustrated with Hayes. I think Slade had taken the lead, and they were single file, and then Hayes is the one that put him too wide that allowed the group behind him to kind of pick up the slack and reel him in. So maybe Slade was just feeling a little frustrated there that he had gotten raced so hard and he was just going to return the favor, but unfortunately the net code struck whenever he was on the outside. I do just think he was pinching a little bit too heavily.
yeah, and it's just unfortunate to see that. I know Slade probably didn't mean for anything like that to happen, but I don't know. I mean, I think the person that would probably be more upset is definitely got to be Michael Hayes. I mean, I understand that, like you said, Joshua Slade had gotten the pass completed, but I mean, those two just seem to always, when they get around each other, I think they bring some of the worst out of each other. Of course, the best for us up here in the broadcast booth, but the worst for each other. I mean, especially, I think if I was Michael, I would probably like, hey, Josh, we got to talk. Next time, I'm like, I know that we're gonna race each other. I get that, but like, I'm out here for a championship. You're not,
Yeah, absolutely. I guess you could expect a little bit more respect, but I don't know. You're racing hard at the end of the race for the win. Again, my thing was just the race preservation. You gotta make it to the end to be able to win the race, and I just feel like that was kind of out the window at that point, and both of those guys were just driving a little bit too hard. I got to put the majority of the blame on that incident on Slade, though. I feel like it's pretty cut and dry, but still, just 2 guys going hard for the race lead. That's what you race and iRacing for those moments, to be able to put it side by side with another driver and try to get the race victory, but unfortunately it's not going to work out for either of those guys as the pace car comes down pit road. Chad McGinley through the restart zone. Doesn't get as good of a restart as you would think, and maybe there's a little bit of countdown there for Stephen Knight to be able to get through the gears and hold on to that second place position, as Chad McGinley's going to easily take it going down to turn 1. He's got the preferred groove whenever they're not up to speed, and he's going to be able to easily take P1 as Stephen Knight falls back into second coming off the corner.
What a recovery for David Holsey, up to 4th place right now. Of course, we saw him have almost catastrophic damage earlier in this race. He was able to get a lot of it fixed. He's now up in the top 4 as he is actually trying to battle, I think, with LeBlanc a little bit. LeBlanc, though, to the inside of Knight for 2nd place. Now it's all going to be about the short run. I mean, 17 laps to go. This is going to be curious. Who's got the best car for that 17-lap run?
Yeah, and unfortunately for Stephen Knight, he just got stuck on the outside line whenever everybody's not quite up to speed. He's going to drop all the way back to 4th as David Holsey and Justin LeBlanc both go through. Does LeBlanc have anything for Chad McGinley, though? We have not really talked about LeBlanc all day long, and now all of a sudden he's found himself in P2, the lone Low Star Racing vehicle left in the fight up towards the front of the field. He's got that draft from Chad McGinley, trying to make something work down the front straightaway. Ducks to his outside before they get to the corner. Looks like he's to the right rear quarter panel, but I don't quite think he's going to be able to make that move stick as he just ducks back in line.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what LeBlanc can do here. Of course, we talked about how he's jumped up 6 positions in the championship standings. He's up into P2. Now, the leader in the points is McGinley. So if LeBlanc wants to unseat McGinley from the top step, he's got to beat him here tonight. Can he do it? As you see, just a gaggle of race cars right behind LeBlanc. So LeBlanc can't really focus on just McGinley. He's got all kinds of cars right there vying for his spot.
Yeah, it's difficult to attack and defend at the same time, but LeBlanc's doing a good job right now, still holding on to P2, but he's kind of in the at-the-top motorsports sandwich at this point. He's got Stephen Knight right behind him. You got to think Knight's going to be hung. Oh, man, he just kind of closes the door there on the driver on the inside. Was that Howard in the 78? He was to the inside there of Stephen Knight, but Knight just kind of closed the door going into the corner. He's like, nah, this P3 is mine. I'm not giving you that bottom lane. And it's just going to stay 1, 2, 3 the same way as it was going in. But it looks like Stephen Knight now down to the bottom of Justin LeBlanc, entering turn number 1. Going to try to do one better, bring that machine up to the P2 position. And it looks like he's going to get the move done before they get on the exit.
Yeah, definitely really good recovery from that restart from Stephen Knight. Of course, right behind now his teammate. Now Knight's going to, I think, do everything he possibly can to act as somewhat of a defender for Chad McGinley by pushing McGinley to try to get away from the guys behind and also just kind of be five cars wide all by himself. I mean, can't really blame him for that. Got to give him some credit, though, to the 78 of John Howard up here in 5th place, running some very fast laps at the moment as he's challenging the 57 of David Holsey. Right now, side by side for 4th.
You have good battle for 4th right there as Howard's looking to the inside, trying to pick up the pieces from whenever he got kind of shuffled out of the 3rd place position. It looks like he's going to be able to take P4 away from Holsey there coming off the corner. Holsey still probably fighting a little bit of that damage from whenever his right front hit the wall in the backstretch not too long ago whenever he had contact from McGinley. But he puts it back down to the inside of Howard before they get down to turn 1. Kenny Raff, the bottom of the racetrack, a little bit better than Howard can the outside. It looks like he's going to be able to do it, but he can't really clear as Justin LeBlanc's to his outside now coming off of turn 2.
Yeah, if he had got clear to LeBlanc there, that would have been great for David Holsey. Of course, not so much for Justin LeBlanc. LeBlanc, I think, getting incredibly close, getting turned by John Howard. Howard almost gets a little bit up into the left rear. Luckily, no contact happens. Chad McGinley still, though, in control of this race as we come to now 11 laps to go. Next time, 10 laps to go. To the inside goes David Holsey for 2nd place, 57. Looking like a rocket ship right now.
Yeah, Holsey has come out from absolutely nowhere. He's got a little bit of damage on that truck. It looks like he's got it mostly fixed up, so it probably isn't too much of a detriment. But he's somehow to the P2 position, and now shoving Chad McGinley up the racetrack. He's to the inside of the 28 coming off of turn 2. Stephen Knight obviously going to go with his teammate on the outside, but Justin LeBlanc's helping Holsey on the bottom.
Yeah, a little bit of some cross-team kind of allies kind of developing here as Justin LeBlanc tries to push to 57. He knows that if I push to 57 and I get in front of Chad McGinley, that still points over McGinley. David Holsey, of course, as you mentioned before, non-playout driver at the moment. So if he wins this race, it doesn't matter as long as LeBlanc finishes ahead of McGinley here.
Yeah, but you got to think the points for the lead really don't matter too much because a handful of drivers make that final 4. You really don't care to be P1 going into the final championship race. But still, you still want to be in the top 4 and make sure you make it. Every position matters at that point, as LeBlanc still trying to look to the inside of Stephen Knight for P3. Not able to clear off the corner, but he's got some help from Howard. But no, Howard ducks to the inside. We're going to be 3 wide going into turn 3.
3 wide as Stephen Knight pinches Justin LeBlanc down. I don't think Knight knew they were 3 wide. As Howard gets tight off of turn 4, he's able to get clear of LeBlanc, though, as McGinley now sets to try to see if he can possibly recover the lead from Halsey. Halsey trying to, I think, move up the track, but unfortunately McGinley not allowing him to do that.
Yeah, they're side by side coming off the corner. McGinley's going to have a little bit better of a run and a little bit of a bump draft here from Howard before they get to the corner. Just about before they get to turn number 3. They're still side by side, 2 by 2, all throughout the field. 1st to 8th under a blanket at this point in the race. Only 7 laps to go this time by.
Definitely a great battle right now for this lead position. Still unknown on who's going to win this. I think these guys are going to start to not have as much give and take here. It's going to be pretty much all take, I think, very, very soon. As you can see, Halsey not really wanting to give McGinley a lot of room. McGinley not wanting to give him a lot of room as well. Oh, almost some contact there for that 3rd place position as Howard and LeBlanc almost come together, as well as we got Stephen Knight pushing Howard. And you see also Ricky Hudgens has entered the fray.
Yeah, at this point in the race, it's all take. Nobody's going to be given anything at this point, but I think that inside line's going to start hurting at some point. Those tires are going to start wearing out to where the inside line doesn't work, but we're not quite to that changeover point just yet. Halsey's still trying to make the inside line work as Chad McGinley's still able to get the run off the top side, able to hold on to his quarter panel and able to draft just ahead of him before they get down to the entrance of turn number 3. But Halsey, again, on the bottom of the racetrack, able to hedge ahead just a little bit, but he gets a little tight coming off the corner. May have to lift just a little bit, and it looks like McGinley's going to be able to get the run down the front straightaway. But Halsey's got a little bit more help from behind, gets a little bit of the side draft going before they get to the corner, and Halsey's going to be able to duck down to the bottom of the racetrack and still hold them side by side.
And you saw who led that last lap. That was Chad McGinley. So if Chad McGinley is able to replicate that on the last lap, he will win this race. And look at that, big run on the high side. So David Halsey's definitely struggling on the bottom. And I think what I've been seeing is McGinley's not letting Halsey get up off the corner like he really needs to. So, of course, that burns the tires up a little bit more, a little bit of a tight condition for Halsey as he comes off of turn 4. He loses a lot of momentum. He is going to drop possibly back to 5th right now. Oh, big hit. Huge wreck here. Caution flag is out. And that is John DiMatteo, I do believe, involved, as well as David Halsey. That is a completely destroyed vehicle. I don't know exactly who that was. I think it was David Halsey with the destroyed vehicle. As you see right there, the 2 of Tyler Honeycutt got up into the 78 of John Howard.
It was actually Hudgens.
I'm sorry. The 21, got up into the 78 of John Howard, and that kind of set off a chain reaction that sent John Howard down in to David Halsey. So Halsey had no fault of his own in that situation. Man, that's an unfortunate incident right there.
Yeah, you got to say Hudgens was just going for a gap that didn't exist at that point. We're on board. You see Halsey starting to come off the bottom or edging up to kind of get to the entrance of the corner, and there was never really a truck width in between the 78 and the 57 there, but Hudgens tried to make one, and unfortunately just got to the left rear quarter panel of Howard, who obviously turned down into Halsey, and both those guys took a heavy hit to the outside wall. Probably going to damage both of them beyond race winning repair. I don't think either of those guys are going to be able to do anything for the race lead here now with the green white checkered. Just super unfortunate for Halsey, super unfortunate for DiMatteo, and also for Howard, who is having a really strong run there in the top 5 for most of the event. So sad to see a lot of those guys get taken out that late in the race.
100%. It's just definitely unfortunate for David Halsey and all those drivers involved in that crash. And Ricky Hudgens, of course, escapes it fairly unscathed compared to them. And I'm sure that's not what he meant to happen. Of course, we talked about before that it's all take towards the end of this race here, and I think that's exactly what it was. I mean, guys are willing to take risks, and that was a risk that Ricky Hudgens was willing to take there, and unfortunately, 2 other drivers paid the price. Of course, I kind of get it, though. Ricky Hudgens is a playoff driver. He wants to get as many points as he can here.
Yeah, for sure, but I don't know, man. There was never a hole in the middle of the racetrack there to make that 3 wide, so it's just kind of, I don't know. You got to either buy your time
behind the corner as well. Maybe he wasn't going through that. I mean, he might have just been, I don't know.
They were coming through the tri-oval. You don't get tight through the tri-oval at Vegas, but in hindsight, he should have put it to the bottom of who was on the inside of Halsey. But I mean, hindsight's 2020 at that point. You're making split-second decisions, so it's not like you can just be like, "Oh, Hudgens is an idiot," right? Like, you can't say that. You just make a split-second decision. You think that middle lane's going to open up. It didn't open up, and unfortunately, the wreck happened. So, nothing like too harsh on Ricky there. It's just unfortunate that the hole that he thought was going to open didn't open. That's a part of racing,
Yeah, 100%. Just unfortunate. This has been it was a clean race, I'd say, first half, but now it's definitely livened up quite a bit here towards the end. Of course, we're going to have a green-white checkered, so the race has been extended. At the moment, we have, I do believe, 10 drivers that are on the lead lap. So everybody else, of course, the 16 drivers we started with, now 6 of them are heavily, heavily damaged. And wow, what a race here at Las Vegas. I mean, it has definitely been entertaining. Vegas is not disappointed this week, I got to say. I mean, I have been very much enjoying it. I'm curious to see what Homestead is going to look like next week. I mean, that's definitely a different animal.
Yeah, Homestead's going to be a fun one. A lot of different grooves you can run around that racetrack. It'll be interesting to see kind of who brings the best setup there. And I fully expect the Stop Motorsport guys to be pretty freaking competitive, if I do say so. They've been really good at the mile and a halves, again, with one of them leading here late in the race. So we're just going to have to wait and see for next week. But I'm still excited to get this one finished up, see who wins this green-white checkered. It's going to be a close one between LeBlanc, McGinley, and Stephen Knight here.
No, I definitely think so. It's going to be a close one here. I mean, of course, LeBlanc trying desperately to get some points over Chad McGinley. McGinley as well trying to build up some sort of gap. Because to be honest, completely honest, to kind of show my ignorance here, I do not know how that final race is going to work. I know that for the most part, these playoffs here in the Global Racing Truck Series have been all points-based. It is no winner you're in type of situation here. Will that be how it works in the final race? If it's not, if it's all still points-based, Chad McGinley could come into that race as a clear champion.
You have to imagine it's whoever finishes highest. I mean, if it's a one-race championship and it's still points-based, that would be kind of weird. So I don't know.
Seen it before, though. I mean, that's how the Winston Cup used to be. I mean,
yeah, so but it's not a one-race championship. It's a full length. Like, that's totally different. This is a playoff system where, you go down to one race where everybody gets reset, right? I mean, I feel like it's got to be whoever finishes highest.
I don't know. I mean, that's definitely something that I'll have to speak with the admins and things like that to kind of see exactly what that last race format will look like. But if it is points-based, you got to imagine that Chad McGinley's trying desperately to make sure that he's got it sealed now.
Yeah, if it is like that, you can definitely build up the bonus points to where, you get the wins and you just way far out ahead of everybody. But I have to imagine that's not the way it is. If it was a final round, like 3 or 4 races, then yeah, that'd be pretty cool. That would work out perfectly fine on the points racing. But if it's a one-race championship, which, by the way, I hate the one-race championship, just whoever finishes highest, I think it's stupid as crap. But I imagine that's the way it's going to be, because I think it would be kind of even weirder if it was points-based, if only over one race. But the pace car's about to come out. Back onto the pit road. Chad McGinley's going to lead us down to the green flag for the green-white checkered. Who's going to be? Is it going to be McGinley? Is it going to be LeBlanc? Or will it be somebody else in the field? McGinley gets a good jump. Stephen Knight all over his back bumper. Gets a good jump from 3rd place. And Stephen Knight's just going to push him down into turn number 1.
LeBlanc just got caught sleeping right there. But look at that. Steve Gerber. What another recovery drive for him as he's up in the 4th place right now. Got by Ricky Hudgens. Can he make something happen? Even though LeBlanc definitely did not get going on that restart. Here he goes, possibly to the top side, but he does not have help. Strength in numbers at a racetrack like this, I think, is the key. Is, of course, we're going to start the final lap. White flag is out here. As you can see, Stephen Knight down onto the apron, trying to make something happen, possibly, to even maybe fight his teammate. I wonder if the loyalty will go out here on this final lap. But here we go. Final time coming out of turn number 2 onto the Nellis backstretch.
Yeah, with them in side by side, that's Chad McGinley's best friend. They're not going to be able to build a run on him through 3 and 4. They're side by side for second. Stephen Knight, Justin LeBlanc. They want everything that they can coming out of turn number 4. The points matter so much, but coming out of the corner, Chad McGinley is going to run away with it. He's going to win in Las Vegas.
Wow, you see Ricky Hudgens driving it through the grass. I don't know why he was trying to get maybe some positions by shortcutting the racetrack. But Chad McGinley taking care of business here today. Big win. Almost could have been an at-the-top 1-2 finish, but Justin LeBlanc came in and played spoiler. Of course, definitely kept the torch lit for the Lone Star camp. But what a race for these drivers. Big congratulations to Chad McGinley. Of course, going to be celebrating, and of course is going to once again add on to his points lead. And he has had just a fantastic season. It's definitely been, he's put everybody on notice. Of course, we've seen a lot of drivers that have really, I think, had fantastic seasons this season, but I think he has been the one that has had the hot hand for the most of the season.
Yeah, McGinley's hitting his stride at the right time, man. I mean, he's been consistent. Maybe towards the middle of the season, at the top guys weren't the fastest, but they were still consistently running in the top 5, top 10 every single week. But as the season has wound down and we've gotten into the playoff time, the at-the-top motorsport guys have just kind of established themselves as the team to beat. And, you know, with Bobby Mantle kind of falling off with having accidents in the last 2 weekends that were really not his fault, it's kind of handed over the mantle to, no pun intended with Bobby Mantle, but handed over the mantle to Chad McGinley here. Unfortunately for them, Stephen Knight not in the playoffs, but still with a good P3. But, yeah, the at-the-top guys are looking good for the championship at this point.
100%. Of course, this brings us to the conclusion of our Martin Sports winning moment. Martin Sports, family-owned in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. They've been open for a decade and proved to be the best provider of apparel for everyone, whether you need local sports team apparel, business, maybe apparel, special events, maybe even have a family reunion you need some shirts for. They can definitely take care of it. They use a process called sublimation, which produces some of the most long-lasting apparel you can have. You can wash it 1,000 times. It won't fade. Not only that, Martin Sports is a major brand in sim racing, providing top sim teams with jerseys, even custom gloves and hats. So if you want to get some specialized sim racing gloves, definitely go to martinsports.gg to check them out. Definitely, we appreciate them being a partner here with the Global Racing Truck Series. With that, we'll take one more step away. We'll be right back, and we'll talk to our top 3 finishers. Oh, dang it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Grid Vision's post-race show. Of course, I was kicking myself a little bit because I forgot to go through the final running order here. We'll go ahead and do that right now. Chad McGinley, of course, your winner. Justin LeBlanc in second place. Stephen Knight finishes in third. Steve Gerber in fourth. Very good recovery for him. Fifth place, Joshua Winger, new driver in the series. He finishes in fifth. Ronald Holmes in sixth. Tyler Honeycutt in seventh. Eighth place, Ricky Hudgens. Ninth, John DiMatteo in his first race as well. 10th place, Joshua Slade.
11th is John Howard, 12th, David Holsey, 13th, Mike Hayes. Michael Lister comes home in 14th, Kenny Heath in 15th, and Bobby Mansell gets wrecked out and drops down to 16th.
Definitely a heartbreaker for sure. Of course, with that, we'll go ahead and talk to our top 3 finishers here, starting with Stephen Knight. Stephen, we got you up here in the booth, man. What a great finish for you today. Almost probably might even got one step ahead or maybe even won the race. I mean, just seemed like you at the top guys brought a lot of speed here tonight. Tell us how you prepared for it. How was the race for you?
Fun race. Really enjoyed it. A lot of tight racing. A lot of respect from the other drivers. It was a lot of fun. I practiced during the week with my teammates, and we do some officials and whatnot, and that helps. It was really a great race.
It definitely seemed like a great race for sure. What was the kind of priority whenever you guys were practicing? I mean, did you practice pit road a lot? Did you practice long runs? Because it seemed like long run definitely was a factor here today.
Well, for me, it's long run. I don't have the short run pace like Chad, but long run is where I train, because that's kind of when I can be competitive.
Well, you definitely showed a lot of speed here tonight or today, Steven. Fantastic performance. Next week, though, Homestead's going to be on the docket. I think you've been doing so good. You've been so consistent. I think eventually you're going to break through and get this victory. Do you think it might come at Homestead, or how do you feel about that track?
I do like Homestead. I would love to get a win. At the same time, I don't want to get in the way of these playoff drivers. But we'll see a couple more weeks. If not, there's next season. I'll push hard.
All right, Steven. Well, definitely fantastic job. Who can we give a shout out to after your third place finish?
Sure. And also, I watched your race Friday night that you guys covered. Hell of a race. You guys did a great job. That was fun. I'm going to start trying to catch that. I want to thank my mom. I hope she's watching. Hi, Mom. And then my teammates, Kenny and Chad and Bobby. They're the best.
All right, Steven. We appreciate it. You got us blushing over here talking about our Friday race. But we'll see you next time, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care.
All righty, that was, of course, Steven Knight. And, man, he's got me. He touched me there, Austin. Of course, back to you. We're going to be talking to LeBlanc. Oh, shut up.
But, anyway, sorry. Yeah, Justin, you came in at a great time, buddy. Congratulations on your P2. Sorry, I'm having to rack my brain here now. But is there anything different that you could have done on that final restart to maybe challenge McGinley, or was it just a simple case of teammates lining up on the inside line and maybe giving a little bit of countdown so that you could really do anything about it?
Yeah, that restart, they definitely got me. I tried to give it my best, but Hudgens gave me a little push there and helped me to get back in the groove and get a run to challenge for second. But now those two teammates together, it was hard to beat.
Well, still, being the top Lone Star guy, we saw Michael Hayes have a lot of speed towards the beginning part of the race, but then you kind of came back up towards the pack and showed your muscle there towards the end. Where do you think that this race could have gone different from you, or for your perspective, to maybe get you onto that top step? In my mind, I'm thinking maybe that run where Hayes and Slade got into each other, it felt like you and the couple of the top guys were coming through the field like nobody's business, just completely running down the 2 leaders. If that would have ran green, do you think you would have had a better chance at that point?
Yeah, I would have had a better chance there. I was trying to save the first 2 pit stops, save my tires as best I could, keep the truck in one piece. And at the end there, we were really pushing, and I felt I really had a fast truck. Michael was hard to beat, but I mean, we were catching them.
Well, now that puts you in, I'm looking at the standings right now, puts you in P2 here in the championship standings. I mean, that's got to feel good at this point. Do you think that you have a really good shot at running for the championship? It only takes you getting into that final race, and then you just got to be really good in that final one. And you're sitting really, really pretty in the points at this point. So does that just kind of give you a lot of confidence going into the next 2 races?
Well, we'll see. I mean, the whole season was a write-off basically for me. I've had problems with my PC, crashing myself, getting crashed. It was just a hectic battle, but hopefully at the end here I can really show my speed. It was fun battling with those guys.
Well, you really got to show it here at the ending of this race tonight, and like I mentioned, putting you in P2 of the standings, looking really good to make the championship race. So congratulations on the good run. And are there any shout outs that we can give here towards the end of the interview that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to everybody at Lone Star. Michael was battling the whole race up front there. He had a good chance. He should have been up there, because for him to help him out with the points. Steven, I mean, he led the championship almost the whole season. He was out there, and it's unfortunate he's going to miss a couple of races because he really was in contention for the championship. So, and Luna, hopefully he has a good night there at Vegas watching the Cup race. So shout out to those guys. It was fun racing with them all season.
All right, well, congratulations once again on the P2, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you can maybe do in the championship if you can get there.
Yeah, thanks. And you guys too at the booth for broadcasting. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Justin. We appreciate that. That was Justin LeBlanc there, our P2 finisher. Next up, we're going to have our race winner, Chad McGinley. He's going to be standing by with Brian Britt.
Chad, definitely fantastic job. Of course, you qualified on the pole and you ended up winning this race. I mean, you've been heating up quite a lot here lately. Of course, you got 5 wins on the season, which I think is probably more than everybody at the moment that's involved in the playoffs. What has been the key to your success? I mean, it seemed like, I got to say, earlier in the race, you qualified on the pole, you fell back almost instantly and really wasn't that much of a factor. But then all of a sudden you just flip the switch and you were right back up in the mix.
Yeah, that was my intention, honestly. I wanted to conserve that first run to make a long run to make sure I was good on fuel for the rest of the way. If we did go green the whole thing, we were going to split it up and still have about 5 or 6 just in case at the end. So I kind of let those guys duke it out, man. They burnt their stuff up and waited till I started feeling really good about the car or the truck, and then just started reeling them back in, just making my moves. And then obviously the help towards the end with Steven on the final restart was tremendous. It was what it looked like, no teams around. So let's make this work. Let's make this pay off here. Go capture that win.
100%, and you definitely did it. And of course, you're securing a big points gap on everybody else. So definitely, how does that help you with confidence, I'd say, going into these final races? I mean, because it's getting now to the pressure is starting to build, I'd say, for you to continue to perform.
Yeah, I mean, that's, 2 wins in a row, so back to back builds momentum, honestly. And in my opinion, I think that's what's helping my confidence is the momentum. It's been, as of late, it's just been turned on 110%, giving it all, practicing a lot more. I think I ran probably 10 officials this week just to get an idea of what the truck will do in every situation. So that's kind of my key to the success was lots of practice.
Well, it definitely seemed like it paid off for sure. And I know last week at Iowa, we weren't able to really cover that race win. So you were like, they didn't cover this one, so I got to go win next week. So they will cover that one. And it definitely glad to see it for sure. To see you get 2 in a row. And I hated I missed last week because that was my favorite track, Iowa. But great job to you. Homestead's coming up. Do you think you can make it a 3-peat?
Well, I mean, my goal right now is just survive and be in the top 4. I mean, building a little bit of a gap is kind of nice. I don't need to push it real hard. This race, like I said, I wasn't going for the win. It was just getting that top 5, and it just happened to fall on my lap, so it kind of worked out. So next week's going to be the same goal, try to get another top 5, survive, get ready for Martinsville because anything can happen there. So try to get as many points as possible out front. That way, come Martinsville time, it's not going to matter if I go first or last, and kind of just have that easy going into Martinsville looking into Phoenix.
Yeah, definitely. Martinsville is going to be probably a big headache, and you want to have some, I think, extra points going in there for sure, a little bit of points padding. A great job to you, Chad. It was a pleasure to watch you out there and a pleasure to watch you work. I mean, you've definitely been showing a ton of speed and very much carrying I wouldn't say carrying the At the Top brand, because I mean, y'all got a lot of strong drivers in your stable there. But of course, I think you're the tippity top of it for sure, and very much the points or championship favorite. We look forward to seeing if you can possibly clutch that title. But who can we shout out after this win?
My family, honestly, they're at work now and daughter's away, but they let me do this and spend time on it and not get upset. My dad, who watches us every week, and obviously At the Top Motorsports, the practice that we put in is definitely what's showing us, to be at the top motorsports, so that's our mentality. So I appreciate all their help that we throw in every single week for this, and then obviously you guys for putting on an incredible show, because I love doing this, love watching this at the end during my day. So I appreciate you guys doing this.
Well, we hate that we weren't able to give you that last week. It broke our hearts for sure. We were having major technical difficulties, but glad we were able to do it for you guys today, and we look forward to you looking back at it for sure, and definitely going to watch an incredible race. Thanks for your time, Chad, and we'll see you next time.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a great day.
All righty. That was Chad McGinley. Definitely a fantastic performance for him. And looks like, just great race, Austin. I can't really complain about it. I mean, it was action-packed, long runs. We got short runs. We saw hearts breaking. We saw victory. I mean, it was just a classic drama kind of race. I mean, it was just awesome.
Yeah, Las Vegas has just kind of proven itself to be one of the best racetracks on the on the iRacing service, if I got to say. I mean, I can't say that race held a candle to the Friday night race, because that was legitimately one of the best races I've ever watched on iRacing. But in all seriousness, that was a heck of a race there from the Global Racing Truck Series League. A lot of crazy battling throughout the field. We saw hard crashes for the race lead there between Slade and Hayes. Hard battling for the race lead between McGinley, LeBlanc, late in the going, and all throughout the race. We saw great racing throughout the field. So I just got to give my hats off to iRacing for building a really good Las Vegas Motor Speedway and a couple of good NASCAR vehicles that work really well at the racetrack.
100%, of course. Before we go, I do want to mention that we do have some racing tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The RGR Kailu Glass Cup Xfinity Series will be at Vegas as well. We've seen the NASCAR Cup cars. We've seen the NASCAR trucks. Now we get to see the Xfinity cars tonight. Me and Justin Prince will, of course, be on the call, so make sure you tune in for sure. It's going to be an exciting one. Of course, they always have been putting on a lot of exciting races there. Look forward to it for sure. That brings us to the conclusion of today's broadcast, though, of the Global Racing Truck Series, of course, on Grid Vision. Congratulations to Chad McGinley for picking up the W. And, of course, thanks to everyone that tuned in today. I want to thank my co-commentator, Austin Edstrom, and, of course, also my producer, Austin Derbyshire, and anyone else that's involved with Grid Vision that makes all of this happen. My name is Brian Britt. We'll see you next time.